Welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective. I'm your host, the Guru himself, and I would like to say it was a crazy weekend in college and the NFL, and I would like to discuss it. I even enjoyed the Monday shows. It was a doubleheader. We're going to have another doubleheader next week, and I will definitely get right into it. I want to start off, and I want to talk about some of the things that happened in college football. Some of it was surprising, some of it wasn't. I want to start off and just, lick my wounds right now and say number 15, Michigan versus USC. That was definitely unexpected. I didn't think that we were going to play as bad as we did, but not only that, I feel like this was one of those growing pain games for Bryce Underwood. So I want to get into that and I want to discuss that because I definitely wasn't expecting that. I thought it would have been a better fight, in my opinion. He had 207 yards, 15 of 24, two touchdowns. The one touchdown, I believe, and I'm just being honest, came at garbage time, when the game was already about over. And he had an interception on the day. USC quarterback didn't look that bad. Jaden Maeda, he had 265 yards. He was 25 of 32, two touchdowns, and he had a pick on the day as well. The running back played pretty good too as well. King Miller for USC, he had 158 yards on 18 carries and he had a score. And the receiver for the Michigan Wolverines played exceptionally well. Andrew Marsh, I'm thinking that's definitely the number one guy over there right now. Definitely from the stat line, he had 138 yards on 8 receptions and he had a touchdown as well. And then USC Makai Lemon definitely looked the part as well. 9 receptions, 93 yards, and he had a score. So it was a game to where I thought that it could have been evenly matched. The defense played not that bad, but I've seen better days for us in our defense. My problem was I was just surprised in the seeing Bryce Underwood and a lot of the misses and the mishaps in the game. Have to give credit where credit is due. They was in UFC, so I knew that was going to be a tough contest. I thought that would be something that we can pull out, but obviously USC was a better team that was advertised, and we're back at the drawing board right now with two losses. That final score was 31-13, and I'm moving on now, and I want to talk about another contest that was actually really good to me. Surprised me. It didn't really surprise me, but surprised the way it happened and how it went down because number 7 Indiana seemed like they were in the driver's seat the whole game. They wasn't favored by anything. I think the one situation, the one exception was the interception. And when I seen that interception, I said, "Uh-oh, this might be a long day." But Fernando Mendoza, you better recognize and you best believe that this guy is here to play and he's here to stay for Indiana. I believe, I don't know what it is, there's something in that Indiana, that's brewing right now. You had Michael Penix who played there at one point, and then now you have this Fernando Mendoza guy who they're saying is a Heisman, qualifier right now. He had 215 yards, 20 of 31. He had a touchdown, but he had a pick on the day too. The person who definitely stand up for this game, or he basically stood out, was Roman Hemby. 70 yards on 19 carries, and he had two scores. And then, of course, Elijah Sherritt, the wide receiver, had a really good game. 8 receptions, 120 yards, and he had a score as well. Dante Moore didn't do what I normally used to seeing Dante Moore do. I was actually surprised with the stat line because he had 186 yards, 21 of 34. He had a touchdown, but he had two picks in the game. So the one pick I feel like Fernando Mendoza did, that I was feeling like it was costly. These were very costly in the hands of Dante Moore right now, especially with his Heisman candidacy. And he had the wide receiver who had 44 yards, Malik Benson, on one reception and a touchdown. It wasn't really much going on there. I just felt like Indiana showed their dominance. They were more bullies when it came to the offensive front and the defensive front as well. And I didn't think that, Oregon was ready for that. So, yeah, for all the people who didn't think that Indiana was for real, number 7, Indiana is definitely real. And I know they moved up in the ranks too, and I want to see where they're ranked at now too when I go into my prediction for next week. I want to get into the number 1 Ohio State against number 17 Illinois game. I thought that'd be a little better of a competition, but then I know I've had people in my ear. I know the co-host of the Guru Sports Session was saying that those guys are definitely pretenders and they didn't belong, and this definitely might be an example of that. When I see the Ohio State kid Julian saying he played good enough and he didn't do anything that made Ohio State like any costly moves. Like he played clean. He had no picks or anything, no fumbles. So I had to give him credit where credit is due for just basically staying clean. And Julian Sand don't even really make a lot of mistakes. So that's one of the hard things too when you're playing number one Ohio State. He had 166 yards, 19 to 27, which was pretty clean, and he had two scores. So he basically passed the ball when he had to, and looked pretty good doing it. And Jeremiah Smith was one of the best receivers in the nation. He had 5 receptions, 42 yards, and a score. Surprisingly, Luke Altmaier didn't have a bad game as well. 248 yards, 30 of 44. He had a touchdown. He had a pick on the day, but he didn't really play that bad. And Aiden Laurie, basically 50 yards on 8 carries, and he had a score as well. But it wasn't enough to, go against the number one Ohio State ranked team, who still, to me, one of the best teams in the nation. Some may argue and say it's Miami, but until you beat the champs, you're not the champs, or you're not number one. So if Ohio State just so happened to slip up in the season, and they stay clean, Miami to you, which they're totally 100% back, that's going to be up for discussion. I would like for you guys to, hit them comments and let me know what you think at this point in time. Number 8, Alabama versus number 14, Missouri. This was a really good game. A lot of people called this one and they said that it possibly might be an upset. And I definitely wasn't one of the ones who was too arrogant to believe otherwise, because any team can lose on any Saturday, any given Saturday when it comes to college football. And now when I seen this game, it was very close. They were tied and it was just back and forth. And I feel like the last team with the ball will possibly close this game out. And that's what happened. But the honest opinion was, I was thinking when, they got the ball back, number 14, Mizzou, that they were going to go down and possibly score. And that didn't happen. They got picked at the end of the game, and Alabama, cruised. After that, they had a comfortable victory lap after that. I mean, the game was very close. It was too close for comfort, but at the same time, to go out there and win these huge road games, that's big volumes for Caleb DeBoer right now in his career in Alabama. You still got to play, and you got some tough teams to play. I know you played Tennessee this week, so we will have to see. Even though it's going to be in Tuscaloosa, I just want to see if they'll be able to handle these challenges right now, because for the most part, they stumbled when they played Florida State. And ever since then, that team with Ty Simpson as being one of definitely the Heisman candidates right now. He's been playing lights out. I want to start off with Ty Simpson too while I mention him. He had 200 yards, 23 of 31, and 3 touchdowns in the game. And Jam Miller had 85 yards on 20 carries. I definitely like Bear Perdula. I hope I said his name right. Dale Bavula. I mean, sometimes I, butcher names. I mean, forgive me for that. But the kid looked pretty sharp, until he didn't. He had basically a stat line of 162 yards, 16 of 28, 2 touchdowns. I'm going to say just basically the pick early, in the game. But then that second pick was costly because that was on the winning drive, and that stopped that drive in its tracks. That final score was 27-24. Alabama moved on. And like I said, they faced Tennessee. So, they're going to have to definitely get off their natural high and focus on this week coming up, because it's a lot of competition out there, especially in the SEC. I want to go on to Arizona State and Utah. I definitely picked the Utes. I think both of us picked the Utes to win that game. I didn't think they was going to win like this, though. This was definitely an embarrassing loss for Arizona State. They're going to have to hit the reset button after this one. Jeff Sims basically had 124 yards, 18 of 38. Crazy thing is, this young kid, Devin Dampier, had 104 yards, 7 to 12 with passing. Okay, but hear me out though. He had 120 yards rushing off 10 carries and 3 touchdowns. So him being a dual threat definitely helped them win this game. I think he played phenomenal, basically in the run game. The pass game, he did just enough to keep them guessing. But this game right here really got out of hand, and I was shocked because I didn't think that the score was going to be what it was. This definitely should be enough to help Utah in the rankings as well. That final score was 42 to 10. And when I say I was definitely surprised in this game, I definitely didn't think that was going to be the case. It was some pretty close games too. Like BYU barely held on in their game. I just want to say the scores on that one. It was 33-27. It was another close game too that I seen that was actually really surprising, and that was one of the games the Washington State Ole Miss, number 4 Ole Miss. They possibly could have lost that game. It was 21-24, and Ole Miss survived. That's why I say you can never count a team out and you never know who's going to win, but it was definitely a really good contest. It was more than what I imagined from a Washington State team, who I don't really know too much about as well. I want to go ahead and I want to get straight into it. I want to get into the Red River Rival game. And that is one of the best rivalries they say in football, and I would definitely have to agree. When I looked at this game, I was surprised because I still feel like John Mateer shouldn't even play. He had a broken thumb, he had got the surgery, and he was out there and he was trying to play. And I know, and you know, as football fans, especially if you watch college football, if this wasn't a Red River rivalry game, he wouldn't have possibly played. He would have sat out and probably totally healed before he did this game, but he didn't do so. He wanted to play and he wanted to be there for his teammates. I applaud that, but at the same time, at what cost? Because you definitely didn't look the part. You didn't look nowhere near the John Mateer that we are normally used to seeing. He had 202 yards, 20 of 38, and he had 3 interceptions on the game. So, yeah, it was a very sloppy game, but we know that he had that injured thumb. On the other hand, Arch Manning did just enough to win. I'm not saying he blew it out neither. He had 166 yards, 21 of 27, and he had a touchdown as well. But the game was really good as far as defensively, and it was a good competition. But I still feel like if they had a solid second string quarterback, they should have definitely let him play and just had John Mateer just sit out this game because he didn't look the part. And I believe all those interceptions was costly. It was a closer game than comfort at one point until the interception started flying. That final score was 23-6. And Arch Manning was able to redeem himself because he's been having a lot of scrutiny lately. I know because of his last name, he gets that. And Texas is one of the places where, you got to win or go home. And if you're not that guy, they'll let you know right away. He's still a young kid and he's still trying to, study his craft and, get his feet wet under, get more starts so he can have the experience in the battle lines. Don't count him out just yet. It's just he's not quite where he needs to be. You can't look at him and say he's going to be Uncle Eli and definitely not Uncle Peyton at this point. The game that I called to that I definitely wasn't shy about was this one right here. Pitt versus Florida State. I definitely said that this could be an upset, and it definitely was. I was just really surprised, but now I shouldn't be. You got to feel bad for Florida State. They came out, beat Alabama, and everybody thought that they were back to where they were. Then they had lost to Virginia. Then, of course, when they lost to Miami, I understood that. But to lose to Pitt, too, that really caught people off guard. Now Florida State definitely not ranked. Mason Henschel was all right. Wasn't great. He had 321 yards, 21 of 29 in passing. 2 touchdowns, and he had 2 picks on the day. Feel bad for this kid, Tommy Castellanos, because he looked pretty good in this game. 245 yards, 16 to 23, and 3 scores. The game came down to basically Pitt being smart enough and, running it down their throat and just executing their game plan. That final score was 34-31, and it was a heartbreaking loss to Florida State, and that definitely took them out of the rankings. I got to talk about this game too because for all my Colorado fans, my sis Stephanie, I know she was happy at this one. A lot of people was making fun of Coach Sanders and saying after his kids left, he gave up coaching, and I don't think that's the case. I really feel bad for him because whatever he do, especially what his kids do, is always under the radar. But this game was definitely an entertaining game to me, in my opinion. I was surprised because Rocco Beck is one of those guys who I had as a Heisman candidate, but he didn't play up to that part right now. He had 205 yards, correction, 18 of 33, and he had an interception. Caden Salter, Caden Salter looked pretty good, 255 yards, 16 of 25, and he had two scores on the game. And a wide receiver of the game to me was Joseph Williams, too, with Colorado. 8 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown. That final score was 24-17. It seemed like they had something to fight for, and that was Coach Prime. And congratulations. It seems like every year they're, top 25 Slayer. And at this point, that's the team that they beat. And by them beating Iowa State, I feel like it's a little bit more refreshing right now for them in Colorado. Everything is not looking bad out there in Boulder, Colorado for the team. I wish them the best. And I just like to say continue to play good ball right now. I want to move on and I want to go to the NFL stats. Surprising thing to me in the NFL, give me 1 second, was the Thursday night game. We started off with the Thursday night game, and I thought it ain't no way in hell that the Eagles was going to lose to the Giants. Certain things happened in that game. One thing that I've learned was Quinyon Mitchell, when he got hurt, that changed the complexity of the whole game. That's when I knew that it was over. They were throwing the ball like crazy. Jackson Dart did just enough to win. 195 yards, 17 to 25, and a touchdown. That wasn't the person who sparked the impact of this game right here. You got to hear me out. This young kid from Arizona State who played his heart out last year when they played Texas and made it even more of a closer game than I expected when they were in the playoffs. A really good game, one of my favorite games in the playoffs. Mr. Cam Scatterbo, he had 19 carries, 98 yards, and 3 scores, and he looked the part too. He was trucking people. He was getting in the end zone. He was fighting for extra yards. He was real excited to see Wendell Robinson, a guy who I didn't even think would play right now, but some of the starters are banged up, but he got the chance and he shined in his opportunity. 6 receptions, 84 yards, and he had a score. Saquon Barkley had 12 carries, 58 yards. Didn't really do too much on the ground. Their main weapon was Dallas Goedert in this game. He had 9 receptions, 110 yards, and he had a score. Funny thing is how lopsided this game was. It was 34-17, and the Giants looked every bit of the part of this game. They're happy and they're on cloud nine right now because Jackson Dart won them a couple of games, and we'll see where that go. I still don't know if it'll be enough for Brian Daboll to keep his job, but we'll keep it moving. The New England Patriots versus New Orleans Saints. This contest was actually not as bad as I thought it would be. Spencer Rattler didn't score a touchdown. He had 227 yards, 20 of 26. And New England basically have them franchise quarterback. It was a lot more field goals, I would like to say, on the New Orleans Saints behalf versus them actually scoring points. And they settled, and that's the reason why I feel like New England pulled through with this game. Drake May had 261 yards, 18 of 26, and 3 touchdowns. This is the surprising part right here. Kayshawn Boutte had 5 receptions, 93 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He looked pretty sharp in that game. I've heard of him, but I definitely thought that he was an afterthought and just was one of those receivers who wasn't going to do well. I just felt like that was just Coach Bill Belichick in the moment, just being lazy as far as his talent. But That guy looked pretty sharp in that game. 93 yards from 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns. He was scoring everything, and he was everywhere. He was always open. No disrespect, but they did play the Saints, but the Saints gave him a pretty good matchup in this one. That final score was 25-19. The Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets. This was the morning game right here in London. It was probably one of the worst games in London that I've ever seen. Bo Nix had 174 yards, 19 to 30 in the score. Justin Fields got sacked so many times. I think this man had negative yards too when it came to passing. He had 45 yards and 9 to 17. It wasn't really much that went on in this game. Besides that touchdown, it wasn't a clean game. It was a headache of the game. I'm lucky that I've seen the highlights because I basically slept through this game. So I'm thankful for that. That final score was 13-11, and then after this game, the aftermath of this game is I've been hearing rumors right now that it's a possibility that Tyrod Taylor might be the starting quarterback going into the next week's game. I want to go ahead and I want to talk about the Cleveland Browns because this was a weird situation. Joe Flacco was the quarterback. He was a starting quarterback of the season, and then they traded him to the Bengals. And then Dylan Gabriel is now the guy. Dylan Gabriel had 221 yards, 29 to 52. He passed the ball entirely too much and didn't go anywhere. They kicked 3 field goals. Aaron Rodgers did just enough to win this one too because the defense basically is the true MVP of this game for Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers had 235 yards, 21 to 30, and 2 touchdowns scored. DK Metcalf had 4 receptions, 95 yards, and a touchdown. That final score got ugly, and it was 23-9. This game right here is the reason why I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I normally don't like to talk like this, but when you know a coach is on a hot seat, they're on a hot seat. Mike McDaniels, I'm surprised he's still working and he's employed right now after this game. I didn't mention earlier too, but I will mention when I go back to college and talk some of those scores. I will definitely mention something you all know already, but I want to talk about this game. Got to start looking for a new franchise quarterback as well. Tua Tagovailoa had 205 yards, 21 to 32, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. They wasn't even close, these interceptions. They were wide open to the person. And it's like, why are you throwing it? Because you throwing it and it looked like you were just giving it away to the defense. Devon Achane had 128 yards on 16 carries and 2 scores, and he was the highlight of the game. Justin Herbert had 264 yards, 29 to 38, and he had 2 touchdowns in the game. And Ladd McConkey was the hero of this game. He had 100 yards, 7 receptions, and a touchdown. What I mean by that is because when I thought the game was over when Miami scored, I said, yeah, that might just be ball game. And if they win this, they're going to celebrate and they're going to be very happy to be 2-4 because they didn't play like a 2-4 team. But it was just cool to see the fact that they went down and at least tried to, have the last score in this game. It was funny to me because when they got the ball back, the Los Angeles Chargers, I didn't think that it was going to be enough time. It was a crazy play that happened where I thought for sure Justin Herbert was sacked. He got out of it and threw a sidearm pass to Ladd McConkey. He did a shake move. It was very shifty. And once he got that guy and he got that extra space, he went like 30, 40 yards down the field. And he got them in the field goal range quick. And they ran out the time, kicked the field goal. That final score was 29-27. And it was very exciting to see that game, too. The one game wasn't that exciting. Of course, Lamar Jackson wasn't playing. He will be back this week, just to let you guys know who are Baltimore Ravens fans. This was a sloppy game as well. Matthew Stafford had 181 yards, 17 to 26, and he had a touchdown. Cooper Rush was bad. He had 72 yards, 11 to 19, and an interception. They ran the ball more with Derrick Henry. He had 122 yards on 24 carries, no score. And Tyler Higbee was the only one who got in the end zone in this game. Correction, Kyron Williams as well. He had 50 yards on 13 carries and a touchdown, and Tyler Higbee had 40 yards on 4 receptions, and he had a score. That final score was 17-3. It was definitely a disaster. Another good game that kind of caught me off guard. It was a thriller. Jacoby Brissett stepped in and he played for Kyler Murray because we know he was injured and he wasn't going to play. But the action in the game was really fun to watch. Jacoby Brissett had 320 yards, 27 to 44, 2 touchdowns, and a pick in the game. Daniel Indiana Jones, once again, had 212 yards, 22 to 30, 2 touchdowns, and he had an interception. Tyler Warren had 63 yards, 6 receptions to score, and Jonathan Taylor had 21 carries, 123 yards, and he had a touchdown as well. Really good game. It went down to the wire. That final score was 31-27. Indiana's 5-1. The Indianapolis Colts move on. 31-27. That was a really good game because it looked like it was going to go to the cars until the Colts went down and converted a touchdown. So that was a really good game as well. This is what I mean by any given Sunday. You could be so high and be so low. The Jacksonville Jaguars came into this game 4-1 against the Seattle Seahawks. And this was a pretty good game, by the way. Sam Darnold had 295 yards, 16 to 27, and 2 scores. And Trevor Lawrence had 258 yards, 27 to 42, and he had 2 scores as well. Jackson Smith and Jigba, man, definitely letting you know why he's the number one receiver over there in Seattle now. 162 yards off of 8 receptions and a touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr. had 90 yards on 8 receptions, and he had a touchdown as well. That final score was Seattle going into Jacksonville and kind of, putting a stamp on this victory, 20-12. It was pretty weird because Jacksonville tried to convert and missed on 2 2-point conversions, and that's what happened in this game. Dallas Cowboys against the Carolina Panthers. In this game, it was a lot of good defense that was going on with Carolina. That was pretty good because they held their own in this game. And Dallas didn't have no defense. Dak Prescott had 261 yards, 25 to 34, and he had 3 touchdowns. Bryce Young had 199 yards, 17 to 25, 3 touchdowns, and a pick on the game. Rico Dowdle's really been acting up lately, you guys. You got to pay attention to him if you're a fantasy owner and you don't have him on your team and he's still available. He had 183 yards on 30 carries. That's amazing. That lets you know, too, how bad the Dallas Cowboys defense have played this year. He also had 56 yards on 4 receptions, and he had a score as well. The one person who I feel like showed up and showed out in this game was George Pickens. Man, he definitely needed that. It was a breath of fresh air leaving Pittsburgh, where he was kind of controversial, and it was time for them to move on from him and his antics. But going to Dallas was a breath of fresh air because he's excelled as a player over there. Right now, CeeDee Lamb is out. That's the best thing that could have happened to this man. He had 9 receptions, 168 yards, and a touchdown. But still, it didn't escalate into a win. That final score was 30-27. The Raiders versus the Tennessee Titans. This cost the Titans their coach. Brian Callahan is no longer. Geno Smith had 174 yards, 17 to 23, a touchdown, and he had a pick on the day. Ashton Jenkins had 75 yards on 23 carries, and he had a touchdown as well. Cam Ward had 222 yards, 26 of 38, and he had a touchdown and an interception in the game as well. That final score was 20-10. When you make a team like the Las Vegas Raiders look dominant, then it's time to hit the reset button. And that's what I said. Ryan Callahan, Basically didn't have no chance, unfortunately. And by him having a rookie quarterback, I guess they felt like it was time to move on. The funny thing is, with the coach that they're replacing, the former coach of the Tennessee Titans, um, Mr. Vrabel, Mike Vrabel will be in town playing the Tennessee Titans, this up and coming week, and that's going to get interesting. San Francisco 49ers are facing one of the most exciting teams that I've seen right now in football, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What I like about them is they don't really dabble a lot in free agency. When they do, they'll get one guy here or there, like when they ended up getting Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl. Now they got a sign ready, but they don't usually go out there and make huge splashes. They usually focus on their own players in house, and they've done a wonderful job of that for the last 3, 4 years that I've seen. Mac Jones didn't have as good of a game as he normally had. He had 347 yards, 27 to 39, and he had 2 interceptions in his game. Christian McCaffrey had 54 yards, 17 carries, and he had a score as well. Baker Mayfield looked pretty sharp though in this game. 256 yards, 17 to 23, and 2 scores. And Rashad White came in for the injured Bucky Irvin. He had 65 yards, 17 carries, and a score. Cameron Johnson looked pretty good too, that rookie. He had 4 receptions, 64 yards, and a score. Baker hasn't really had many people to pass the ball to, and he hasn't made any excuse. He just went out there and he played, and he just did the best job that he could to put his team in position to win. And that's tough because I know that we'll be definitely facing them on Monday night, and I will definitely get into that soon. I want to get into the Cincinnati Bengals game too as well against Green Bay Packers. Of course, in this game, I look at it like Joe Flacco just got there, but Joe Flacco definitely looked pretty good. It gave him an opportunity, but too much experience on Green Bay Packers, and I believe that was enough with a solid defense to get them this win. But it was definitely too close for comfort at some point. Jordan Love had 259 yards, 19 of 26, a touchdown, and an interception. Josh Jacobs was the guy who basically carried the team on his back in this game. 93 yards, 18 carries, and 2 scores. Joe Flacco had 219 yards, 29 of 45, 2 scores as well. And he had some really good connections with, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, by the way, had 94 yards on 10 receptions, and he had a touchdown as well. That final score was 27 to 18. And before I get into the Monday games, I want to talk a little bit about the Detroit Lions game as well. That's why I kind of went through everything and I kind of talked about everything and got it out of the way. You know, I'm still looking at what's going on right now too, and I'm still trying to put my head around it. I like to give a shout out to my homegirl Pamela too. Thank you for subscribing. I definitely seen that you subscribed yesterday. I would like more subscribers and people who I know and I'm familiar with. I mean, if you're looking at my Facebook page and you see some of my promos and the things that I'm trying to put out there, I could definitely use you guys' help, man. Me and my partner, Eric Buckner, man, we definitely want people to click on our links, like and subscribe. And some people, if you're watching the show and you're interested, just go down there and, comment for us. Let us know you're interacting with us because we appreciate that. The more you do, the more interaction you give us, the more we appreciate, the more we're trying to put out there for you guys because we're working on some really good new stuff and creative things that we're going to put out there as well. That being said, this game right here had me to the point where I question the integrity of the shield. And I usually do that from time to time again because I just don't feel like things are being done the way it's supposed to be in this game. To have a game where a team does get, I mean, they don't get called for no penalties, man, that's diabolical. Not only that, I feel like it was so many times where I seen certain things that should have been called that wasn't being called. I know people look at it and they say, "Oh, Hugh, you question the integrity of the game." I can. I'm a fan, and I know everybody else who saw it too. I seen some of my homeboys' pages. I seen my boy Carl on there pissed off. I seen my boy Marcus Hutchinson on there pissed off. A lot of us were pissed off that game. My nephew was pissed off. A lot of us seen what we saw, we wasn't happy. My nephew at one point said, if they're not even gonna give us the calls, man, and do the game down the line, why the hell am I still gonna watch this game? And I feel like that was a fact. When you see things go that way too, and I Googled because I was interested. I wanted to see, was it a game where it was anybody or any team that had zero penalties? Zero. It was Kansas City Chiefs that game, October the 13th, and then Kansas City Chiefs back in 1972. Isn't that ironic, people? That Kansas City just have no calls. Well, I've seen several times it was holds on, Travis Kelsey's end. It was a lot of penalties wasn't called, like when we were on the goal line and we were going to score. And I seen that Chris Jones was offsides. I wanted to display and put the pictures up over here on, this platform right here, but then I know how the NFL is and how sensitive they are when you start to poke at the bear and talk about the integrity of the game. Man, y'all lucky right now. I'm pissed off and I would love to curse and shout and say some of the things I want to say. I'm trying to be as much as professional as I could right now. But when you see that stuff go on where you clearly see an offside on the goal line, it should have gave us a first down from Chris Jones and they didn't call it. You see a catch that Travis Kelsey supposed to had, and it was clearly on the ground and they said that that was a catch. I seen a play that was so bad to where the person who was defending Travis Kelsey was 2 feet away from him, 2 feet away, and they threw the ball out of bounds, Patrick Mahomes. But then they called it a pass interference. And then on another play that I seen, the roughing the passer when it came to Aiden Hutchinson. The touchdown that they called back that they said that he basically, didn't stop when he was in motion. He's supposed to take a little pause before he got the ball. It was just a lot of chaos. I thought it was BS. And I said, wow, man, that really made me look at things. And I said, I think Vegas got their hands in this, but for the most part, the Shield is going to protect what they feel like needs to be protected. And that's Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that it was his fault. I mean, yeah, I feel like in a way that they were definitely going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Two reasons. They're in Kansas City. They were 2-3 at the time. And I'm saying I'd be damned if they let this guy lose this game. I was already concerned because we didn't have our cornerbacks in. We just had Tyrion Arnold who wasn't going to play, and they said that for sure. And he's on like the IR right now. But then you turn around, and then we already knew DJ Reed wasn't going to be in there. And I want to pull out the list of the guys who wasn't going to play. You had DJ Reed, who's out on IR, Tyrion Arnold, Khalil Dorsey. You had Avante Maddox, who's one of the guys that we wanted to have as depth. He was out. And then you have Brian Branch at the time, who was questionable. And you had Kirby Joseph, who ended up both playing. And I want to kind of get into that too as well. I was surprised too that they didn't call when Patrick Mahomes got in and scored the touchdown and he did the little flex on Brian Branch too. That's supposed to have been, unsportsmanlike, and that was supposed to have been called. I mean, come on now. They looked the naked eye like nothing ever happened there. And it was a few things that I felt like that they let get away in the game that made the game uninteresting to me. Did we lose the game? I mean, obviously we was because when we lost that game, I mean, that's the end of the day and that's what was going to happen, you know. But at the same time, was it done with integrity? Hell no. I was disappointed in the NFL for that, and it seems like they always do that against the Detroit Lions team. They did it before with the Dan Skipper pass in Dallas, and then now they did it this time for the for the Kansas City Chiefs. They already did it for Dallas, but then you do it for a Chiefs team who definitely didn't need all that already as is because they're usually a fundamentally sound team. So you give them the advantage from all these bad, poor calls, and then at the same time, you didn't give us any call. To have zero calls in a game is still beyond me and my belief. I don't believe that. So I was definitely feeling like in this game right here, for anybody who's a Detroit Lions fan, keep your head up. I know Will Muhammad was pissed off because he felt like I just put up nothing but the highlights from the Kansas City Chiefs because they won the game. Of course, that's what I do. At night before I go to bed, whoever win, I'll put up those highlights and then I'll put up my own highlights. But I wanted to put up my highlights and then I wanted to put something to caption after that so you can see the reason why I waited to get all of my ducks in one row and then execute what I was going to put out there. You just need to give me a chance to shine and let me cook the way I cook on my page, okay? Just give me that opportunity. Let me do what I do because that's what I do. I mean, I don't need nobody to tell me how to do it and when to do it, but at the same time, just give me that opportunity to put my side of things out there. Back to the program. I want to say Patrick Mahomes played pretty good that game. 257 yards, 22 of 33 touchdowns. Jared Goff had 203 yards, 23 of 29, two touchdowns through the air, a touchdown as a pass. You guys know that's true. That was BS that they took that away from him. And Jamison Williams had 6 receptions, 66 yards in the score. The final score ended up being 30-17 after some of the unsportsmanlike things that went on with the Kansas City Chiefs. Juju got up in the face of Brian Branch, and he basically continued to try to, flex and do some of the things they were doing, being unsportsmanlike. Then he tried to give him a handshake. You already seen with Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game tried to shake his hand after flexing on him, but the guy wasn't going to be trying to shake your hand and act like everything was cool. He kept it moving. Should have left him alone at that time. It's still the heat of the battle in the heat of the moment, and you go over to this man and you do what you did. I'm not saying what he did was something that you're supposed to do. I feel like it was childish, and I feel like that's not, there's no place for that in the game. But in the heat of the moment, you never know what a person will do. I know I've had situations where I got into it with people, and at that time, when you're still on that high and you're upset, especially the way that game went and how poor the officials called that game, he reacted in a way that you thought he possibly would have reacted, especially after taunting and being up in his face the way he did. Do I agree with he did? Absolutely not. Like I said, it was childish and he got the suspension without pay. I mean, that was due. Don't do stuff like that, man, to hurt our team and put us in a situation of where we're in a bad situation already with all the people I just named on that list who's out, but then you're out now for a game. And we got to play one of the hottest teams in the league. So I wasn't too happy about that. But I understand what he did just when he went that route. I always felt like it was Detroit versus everybody, and that's the reason why this all happened. So I looked at that and I said, man, it's just a situation where we get the bad end of a lot of things. But the integrity of the NFL and the shield, I definitely look at, and it makes me question them each and every day. Why the hell am I still watching? That being said, I want to move on now and I want to talk about, what happened on the doubleheader Monday night games. But I do want to know what you guys' thoughts are on that because I know that I was disappointed. I feel like that was just blasphemy how they did that and how they handled the game. They definitely looked like they were pro Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and everybody saying, well, yeah, man, we saw what happened and we feel like it was unfair. But then you got the Kansas City fans, the loyal Kansas City Chiefs fans that were saying, well, yeah, man, I don't think that, they did anything wrong. Of course you didn't, because, you're so Patrick Mahomes and y'all so far up their asses that that's the reason why you felt that way. I still feel like it will come back and play itself out. I still don't feel like Kansas City is as good as a team as they was in the past, but we got to step our game up and do what we need to do now at our end. So we need to move on, and we're on to the Buccaneers at home. 30-17. Yeah, I feel like that was really truthfully the score, even if we lost. Hell no. But we're going to move on, you guys. And I like to say, I want to hear what you guys got to say in the comments. Hit them comments for me, please. I want to talk about the Monday Night Football game. I want to start off and I want to talk about this one, the Atlanta versus the Bills game. I was really surprised in this game because Atlanta got blanked at one point. by the Carolina Panthers of all teams. So I was shocked. I said, man, what type of team is this and what's going on over here? I thought that Raheem Mostert would probably be in trouble after this. I mean, Raheem Moore. I said the running back, excuse me. I thought Raheem Moore wasn't going to have a job after that game, losing 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. But they definitely redeemed themselves in this game. It was a really exciting game. I thought that at one point that it was going to be 28-7 because it was a really nice pass to Drake London and he was so open and he ran and I thought that he dove in the end zone and got the touchdown. But his foot went out on the right and that's the reason why they called it back. Michael Penix had 250 yards, 20-32 in the score. Bijan Robinson ran that ball like a champion. 170 yards on 19 carries in the score. Drake London was everywhere in this game. Drake London had 158 yards on 10 receptions in the score as well. Josh Allen just seemed like he's not his regular self. With that defense, he definitely looked like he saw ghosts. 180 yards, 15-26, 2 touchdowns, and he had 2 costly interceptions as well. James Cook had 87 yards on 17 carries, but the game definitely went out of hand. It was a really good game and a really good game plan on the Atlanta Falcons' part. The best thing that they ever could have did right now, they already had a pretty decent defense, but to put the 2 guys that they had in the draft, the defensive ends on both ends, that definitely helped them in this game because that pressure was a little too much for Josh Allen to handle. That's a banged up team. They got injuries as well, but they couldn't handle both of those pass rushers. It caused them to make mistakes like being off sides, and it cost them a lot of mistakes as well, just basically not taking care of business and just getting ran straight through. And the blitz basically had Josh Allen stifling the game. He was definitely worried, and he was doing Josh Allen like throws, and that's what I felt like I had to give credit where credit is due for the Atlanta Falcons. And if you would have told me the Falcons was going to beat a Buffalo Bill team after losing a disappointing loss to New England at home in Buffalo, I wouldn't have said ain't no way. It was a way. And that final score was 24-14. This was a really good game right here, you guys. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not a Bears fan, but man, they look good in this game. Caleb Williams had 252 yards, 17-29, and a touchdown. Jaden Daniels had 211 yards, 19-26, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. DeAndre Swift, I wish he played this way when he was with us and stayed healthy when he was with the Detroit Lions. He had 14 carries for 108 yards, 67 yards on 2 receptions, and he had a touchdown as well. Other than that, Chris Moore had 46 yards, 3 receptions, and a touchdown. Debo was pretty much held in check in the game, but the Bears defense looked really good. They were stingy in that game. They got a lot of good plays. They stayed on Jaden Daniels. They basically kept him in the pocket. Every now and then he was able to scramble, but he wasn't scrambling as much. So good to keep an eye spy on him. And when they did that, that definitely changed the complexity of the game. It looked like at one point, because they were down big, it was like 20-6. They ended up catching up and they passed them up in the game at one point. It was like 21-20. So they was only up by a score. But when it came down to at the end, the Bears hung in there, and definitely after the game when it went down to the wire last season, and Jaden Daniels threw the Hail Mary, it got hit and tipped it, and they caught it and won the game. I knew that they had revenge on their mind. They went to Washington with one thing in mind, and the funny thing was the heroic effort from Jake Moody. Jake Moody got released from the San Francisco 49ers, and he went over to the Bears, and he just got put on an active roster and sealed the deal for the game. That final score was 25-24, and it was very exciting as well. I want to go ahead and I want to talk about the college game and who's going to be playing and my predictions. You got Louisville versus number 2 Miami I'm going with Miami, and I'm taking the 13.5 points on that one. Number 25, Nebraska. Nebraska is in the AP poll this week versus Minnesota. I'll take Nebraska, and I'll take the 8.5 points. Number 10, LSU versus number 17, Vanderbilt. I'm going to take Vanderbilt at home with the 2.5. Number 12, Georgia Tech versus Duke. They have Duke as a 1.5 point favorite. I'm going to take those points, and I'm going to go with Georgia Tech on the road. Number 14, Oklahoma versus South Carolina. I'll go with Oklahoma, and I'll take the 5.5 points. Number 1, Ohio State versus Wisconsin. I'm going to take Ohio State, and I'm going to take the 24.5. Michigan State versus number 3, Indiana. I'm going to take the 27.5 points on that one. Texas A&M versus Arkansas. I'm going to take Texas A&M, and I'm going to take the 7.5. Number 5, Ole Miss versus number 9, Georgia. I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs at home, and I'm going to take the 7.5. Number 7, Texas Tech versus unranked Arizona State. I'm going to go with Texas Tech and the 9.5 points. Number 22, Memphis versus UAB. Why is this even being played? I'm going to take the Memphis team, Memphis Tigers, in the 20.5. Number 8, Oregon versus Rutgers. I'm going to go with Oregon in the 17.5. They're definitely going to take it out on Rutgers. Washington State versus Virginia. Number 18 ranked Virginia. I'm going to go with Virginia at home in the 17.5. Number 21, Texas. They're back in the rankings, folks, against Kentucky. I'm going to go with Texas, but I'm going to go with the under on the 12.5. It's going to be a good one, you guys. This is the game I was talking about. Number 11, Tennessee versus Alabama. I'm going to take Alabama at home, and I'm going to go under the 9.5. Number 20, USC versus number 13, Notre Dame. I'm going to take Notre Dame, and I'm going to go under the 8.5. FAU versus number 19, South Florida. I'm going to go with South Florida, and I'm going to go with the 21.5. Number 16, Missouri versus Auburn. I'm going to go with Missouri, and I'll take the 1.5 point favor. Number 23, ranked Utah. Yes, indeed. They're back in the rankings versus number 15, BYU. I'm going to go with Utah, and I'm going to take the 3.5. Number 24, Cincinnati versus Oklahoma State. I'm going to go with Cincinnati, and I'm going to go with the 12.5 point favor. I'm going to go with my NFL now. Week 7. Steelers versus Bengals. I'm going to go with the Steelers, and I'm going to go under the 4.5. Patriots versus Titans. This is the Mike Vrabel Bowl. I'm going to go with New England, and I'm going to go over the 7.5. The Rams versus the Jaguars. I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams, and I'm going to go with the 2.5 on the road. Raiders versus Chiefs. The Chiefs at home, too. I'd be surprised if they don't win by this 12.5. I would be surprised if they didn't win by more because, definitely when you in Arrowhead, them referees seem like they get extra incentives when they go there. So, yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Raiders. Come on now. Miami Dolphins versus the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go with Cleveland at home, and I'm going to take the 2.5. And that's sad because that's going to be a really bad game. Carolina Panthers and the Jets. I'm going to go with Carolina, and I'm going to go over the 1.5. New Orleans Saints versus Chicago Bears. I'm going to go with the Bears, and I'm going to go with the 5.5 point favorite. Eagles and the Vikings. I'll go with the Eagles in bounce back game, and I'll get them the 1.5 favor. Colts versus the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Colts, and I'll take the 1.5 point. Because they got the Los Angeles Chargers with the 1.5, but I'm going to give it to the Colts instead. Shouts out to Indiana Jones. New York Giants versus the Broncos. I'm going with the Broncos in the 6.5. I'm going to go under that. Packers versus the Cardinals. I'm going to go with the Packers. I'm going to go under the 6. Washington Commanders versus the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders, and I'll take the 1.5 point for the road guys to win. Atlanta Falcons versus the 49ers. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons, and I'll take the 2.5 points they was giving San Francisco. And these are the doubleheader Monday Night Football games. Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming to Detroit, playing the Detroit Lions. Definitely after that bogus game that happened, on that Sunday Night Football slate of games. I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions in this one because of the fact is you got to injure Bucky Irvin You got injured Emuka, and you have injured Chris Godwin. So if Emeka is injured, Emeka Ebuka, and then you have an injured Bucky Irvin, and then you have an injured Chris Godwin. I mean, if Mike Evans not playing, they don't really have too many people to pass to. But at the same time, we still have issues because of Brian Branch and his stupidity, and guys suspended that game, which I'm not really 100% faulting, but I believe you got to do better, man, and don't hurt the team. That's still going to be a challenge, but I would take us, but I'll take us under the 5.5 favorite they got for us at home. Houston Texans versus the Seattle Seahawks. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks, and I'm gonna go with the 3.5 points with the Seahawks. I want to talk about some of the things too that I didn't talk about as well. Of course, if you know and you've been watching football, college football at that, they ended up releasing Penn State Nittany Lions head coach James Franklin. I definitely believe that that was going to be the case because I understood when you lost to Oregon 30-24 in double overtime. I couldn't be upset with that because you battled a team who was ranked. But then you get beat up like you did and had that really bad lopsided loss against UCLA, who's not even ranked. And then you turn around and you lose to another unranked team in Northwestern. I know Drew Aller got hurt in that game. I knew the writing was on the wall, unfortunately. In some NFL news as well, Fred Warner has dislocated his ankle and he's out for the season. The shocker of yesterday was that Darius Smith has announced his NFL retirement after going over and playing with the Philadelphia Eagles. I told you Brian Canahan was released by the Tennessee Titans, and Brian Branch was suspended the game after the scuffle. The New York Jets, I told you about what's going on right now with Tyrod Taylor is going to be taking the starting duties. And the weirdest thing that I've seen basically right now was when the Indianapolis Colts were going to play, Anthony Richardson fractured his orbital bone in pregame, and it was a pregame accident that's going to keep him out for a while. And Bucky Irvin, Chris Godwin will be out for the Monday Night Football game. We already know Nick and Booker was going to be out. But yeah, that's definitely bringing us to almost even playing field. The Cleveland Browns are paying 8 quarterbacks this season. They're paying Shedeur Sanders $955,000, Joe Flacco $999,000, Dylan Gabriel $1.1 million, Jamison Winston $2.2 million, Deshaun Watson $35.9 million, Bailey Zappi $315,000, Dorian Thompson Robinson, what that was a shock. I didn't still know they was paying him $171,000, and Kenny Pickett $8,000. I look at it and I feel like right now, by you having only 2 quarterbacks on the roster right now, and that is Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. I want to see how this plays out this season because they put so much on this whole situation with Shedeur Sanders. Now he's the number 2 quarterback. I want to see how everything escalates and unfold. I really hope he go out and shine and do what he needs to do while he's in the NFL right now and take full advantage of this opportunity. But they had so many obstacles in front of this brother, man, that I definitely want to see now that he is in the driver's seat and he's the number 2 quarterback, what he has to offer. I would like to say thank you all for my old and my new subscribers. I appreciate you all. I appreciate all the love. And I would like to say I just want you guys to keep it going. Click that link, like, and subscribe. Like I said, we're working on a lot of huge projects, and we appreciate the people who are chiming in and listening to the show. I would like to say thank you all. And if you want to catch up with me as well, these are all my links that you can catch up with the Guru. You can find me at Instagram on Hoovy, WHOOVI. And on Facebook, I'm a sports guru to you. I usually put up the scores and breaking news, anything of that nature. And of course, on TikTok, I'm Q.Lee6. I usually put up highlight reels from games and give you all the scores of what happened around the league, NFL, NBA, etc. I would like to say thank you and a shout out to everybody who's been chiming in and showing love and their support. And from the Nighthawk family and all my family and friends out there, I would like to say I love y'all. Thanks again, and I just like to say I appreciate everybody who take the time of day to wish me well and to give us, the opportunity to continue to shine and make better shows for you all. Stay tuned, and I'll see you all next week. I'm out.